Hello, everyone. I'm going to be presenting on my project for this summer for educational technology. What I wanted to do was create something that could help users learn how to use digital audio workstations, also known as DAWs, and help users learn music theory. So if you know knowledge on one and want to know knowledge on the other, or just a fun game to play with, or if you don't know either of those, this is a good way to start. Now, I do know that digital audio workstations are pretty expensive. A lot of them are pirated for this reason, which I don't support. But I wanted to create a free program for people to use. And also, when I started doing research on this project, I did learn that there's a lot of educational value in music. It helps with creativity. It helps with problem solving and group work. So that's just something that's really cool and something that I wanted to share with people because I grew up around music, and I do think it did help me in programs such as math, or it even helped me when I got into my undergraduate and in learning like about frequencies and the math involved. So moving along, the installation for this project, you do need two libraries. You need Pygame and you need PyDub. And then you need FFmpeg, which is a dependency in PyDub. Now, these things are relatively easy to install, and there is a lot of documentation on FFmpeg and how to install it if you do run into problems, which I did, but I was able to resolve those pretty quickly. The pages of my program, there's a drum sequencer, a synth page, and at the end, you can consolidate both of them into one musical idea and pattern that loops. And there's a theory section. I'm going to take a step backwards and go right into the program. So here's the main menu of the program. It's the DrumLooper. And right now, I do have some values up on the program because I just recorded a video, so it's not fresh. But I am going to clear this stuff and just go right into it. So moving back to the main menu, this is what the users will see at first. This will be hidden, this box, but since I already been using the program, once you open the synth page, that'll be shown. And I'll go into more detail on that next. So there are different drum kits that are set as stock for these programs. And the left circles represent each row, and that's the respective sound per row. So each column is a time in a musical measure. So you can sequence, that's why it's called the drum sequencer. You can tell the program when you want this to play. The red bold buttons, I should say, are the downbeats. And if you don't know music theory, then don't worry about that, but just take my word for it. And this is really slow because it starts at 60. The game normally starts at 95, but I was playing around with it. And that's just a simple loop. And I can modify it a little bit and then show you how it'll sound with this pattern. Now I can copy this and paste it to measure 2. So measure 2, I don't remember if there's different sounds. I'm going to change just for the purpose of explanation, I'm going to change the drums on this to a dirty kick. That does sound pretty dirty to me. And I'm going to have a clap for the snare. So playing both of these at once, I'm toggling both. And then there's a play 2 button, which will play pattern 2, and play, which will play these that are toggled in ascending order. And I'll go back to 1. So I'm going to add some I'm just adding different kits to measure 3, and let's say I wanted to move that to measure 4 and not do it by hand. So I have the option to save a kit right here, And then if I go to pattern 4, that's just the stock's bass, but if I was to load it, then this is how it would sound. So going back to the drum loop, I'm going to sequence the patterns 3 and 4. So I'm just testing out what I set my sounds to because I kind of forgot. And so that kind of shows me what it is. I don't think I loaded that, but I do think that was there from before. And this is a pretty busy pattern right here. Which sounds pretty good. And that's something you could do relatively quickly. So playing all 4 at once. It's going to start on 1 and ascend. So sorry, I just hated the way the first stock bass sounded with the other patterns. So I just changed it while I was doing that. And now I'm going to just go ahead and say my idea for this loop is complete. And I'm going to move to the synth page. Now there's something already here. So I'm kind of going to start just with its stock and make these all rest. So I go into a lot more detail on what these notes mean in terms of the duration they last in the measure, in the README, and I think there is a lot of educational value in this, in learning it, but just for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm not really going to get too in depth on this, but I do urge you, if that's something you're interested in, to go ahead and do that and look into that. So I'm going to do a C blues scale. So I'm going to load the root, and I'm going to keep the C in. So I'm using the spacebar to insert, and that's a hotkey I set up. I set up a couple, which again, I don't want to explain them all, but you can go in the README. There is an undo functionality and a redo here. So that's something that I think is cool. I'm going to keep the second measure empty, and then and the third one empty, and I'm going to end the pattern with maybe a higher pitch melody, just so we could see how the two different ones sound. That's probably gonna be pretty high pitch. I do explain what the numbers here mean again, and that's just an octave, so you could think of shifting a keyboard over, and each time you see the same note, it's a new octave. So that's a synth melody I decided to create, and I kind of kept it simple because when you play the drums and the melody at the same time, the sound kind of gets distorted, and I haven't really figured out how to utilize playing two things at once at the same time. So immediately when you open the page, it would prompt you if you have epilepsy, because there is a design that I made when you click play, which is a fun design to see, but it is very fast. So I do want to warn people, if you're epileptic, I would look away during this presentation. And when you do use a program, you can just simply hit that you're epileptic and you'll never have to worry about it. But for the purpose of demonstrating, I'm just going to hit play, and then you can see the pattern on the screen. So that's the pages of the program, and that's basically the whole entire program. And there's a lot of little things that I didn't want to get into for the video, but there is more to unpack if you are interested. And so I'm reiterating in this slide about the theory in the program and on the README, and it kind of demonstrates how the scales are generated and how you can count and subdivide and learn rhythms in a music with this program. So once again, feel free to go into that if you choose to. And the acknowledgement. Now I have to record this whole thing over. Just kidding. The acknowledgements are Pygame, which I mentioned, PyDubs, a good YouTube tutorial, Synth, I think that's how you say it, has a good Pygame tutorial. This is my first time using a GUI for this class, so he really helped me get started. FFmpeg, which I really want to get to know that program a lot more. And Cody Oliver was my mentor. George and Jose, which Jose is my brother and my classmate, and George is my classmate. They both helped me last minute, helping me install programs and testing them on different computers than mine. And Georgia Tech. I'd like to thank Georgia Tech for giving me this opportunity to take this class. Thank you, everyone.